Hello, members. My name is Jim Zielinski, and I'm president of Seabrook Island Club. On behalf of the Board of Governors, I want to welcome you to our Meet the Nominees event. By joining the call today, you have demonstrated your interest in the governance and affairs of the club, and we want to thank you for taking time out of your day to participate with us. Today, you will hear from 4 talented, experienced, and energetic individuals who have offered their time to volunteer and their energy to participate in club governance and the club's strategic future. Volunteerism is crucial for the success of our club. And indeed, I might say also, not only for the club, but also for SAPOA and the town of Seabrook Island. There are many, many opportunities to get involved and participate. And my own view, having been in this role for a couple of years, is that the experience is rich and fulfilling. So I encourage you as we lead up to the annual meeting to look and see where you can make a difference. The talent pool on our island is huge, and having this talent put to work for our club would make an enormous difference for the future. I want to be sure to thank Dr. Fred Osher, who chaired the nominating committee this year. This was his second year doing so. And he had an outstanding committee, including Dean Goodwin, Penny Lee, Randy Powell, Sue Dostal, and Mary Beth Faulkner. They did great work for us. They spent enormous time vetting and qualifying the candidates, and I'm sure you'll see that as we progress through our event today. Now it's time to hear from the candidates themselves. Our board member, John J.T. Carpenter, is going to conduct the process. And coincidentally, he also ran this same type of event for SAPOA last year for their nominees. So at this point, I'm going to turn the microphone over to JT.
Thanks, Jim. Let's jump right into it. As you all know, we have 4 open seats to fill on the 2024 club board. And I'm very pleased to announce that we'll hear from all 4 of those people tonight. They are Rick Grafmeyer. Raise your hand, Rick. Patty Leibach, Ellie Ward, and Donna Brown. We appreciate everybody that dialed in tonight, and we appreciate those that are watching this recording after the fact. It's important for you to hear from these candidates directly, and you'll get that chance tonight. We have a series of questions we're going to ask them. Thanks to the members that have written in questions, all of the questions we're about to ask kind of encompass the topics that members have wanted to hear about. They'll be asked in a random order for each question, and the candidates have received the questions in advance in all cases. So let's proceed. The first question, I think we'll start with you, Rick. I'd like you to tell us about yourself, how long you've lived on Seabrook Island, your family, your career, experiences that you may have had on club committees or something similar. And then tell us what important skills and talents that you think you bring to the board that you think will add value to the members.
You say 20 minutes I have? Thank you, everyone. I've been an owner on the island since 2021. I previously owned a house for almost 20 years on Hilton Head Island in Palmetto Dunes. So I'm well aware of all the issues that come up in living in a coastal community generally. I currently am the legal advisor for the board, and I'm involved in, just about all kind of stuff, protecting club assets, contract, code of conduct. Recently, I've had the joy of assisting in the rewrite of our bylaws that haven't been done in 20 years. How exciting is that? I previously was a partner in the national office of 2 out of the big 4 accounting firms, and thus I also have served on the finance committee for the board. Finally, what else I bring to this office is I formerly was the president of the Watergate Co-op in Washington, D.C., and that operates very similar to how Seabrook operates. It's a co-op, meaning the owners run the building, do everything. And so I have a lot of experience on running a board of a pretty big organization, and hopefully I bring a lot of experience that I've run into in previous times to this board. So that's sort of what I have. Go ahead, JT.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I should have mentioned that Patty and Rick are on the current board and renewing their terms. Patty, let's ask you the same question. Tell us about yourself, your background, time on Seabrook Island, and what important skills and talents are you bringing that add value to the members?
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for everybody for joining us for tonight. I'm talking about my background a little bit later, so I think I'm going to skip that in the intro at this point, if that's okay. I've been on Seabrook 7.5 years and moved here from Washington, D.C., sort of like Rick. And it's where I moved here, yes, 3.5 years ago. Most of my adult life, however, was in Charlotte. It's where I raised my 3 children, where they now reside along with my 6 grandchildren. Over the years as a family, we've been to mostly Kiowa, had been fairly frequent visitors there. And I'd only been on Seabrook twice before I bought the house, and one was right after Hugo hit. And the second time, a very good friend invited me down for a weekend from DC. And it was one of those perfect Seabrook evenings. There was a warm breeze, it was high tide, there was a full moon, and I can honestly say it was love at first sight. I bought a house and moved down, and I considered a number of communities before I made that decision. But it was a natural beauty. And then the real tipping point here was the sense of community. I just felt that Seabrook had more of that than other places I had looked. So shortly after I arrived, I was approached to join the Alan Fleming committee, and I was the publicity chair there for several years. And I've got to give a plug. If you haven't played or seen the tournament, it's October the 2nd through October the 6th this year. It's a really fun event, whether you're playing or you're a spectator. So I joined the board 3 years ago, as I said, and since then, I was on the search committee that resulted in the hiring of Mitchell. I've been on the racket sports committee for 3 years and have co-chaired that with our treasurer, Todd Lynch. I was a founding member of the compensation review committee and have chaired that along with JT and Missy for the last 2 years. And last but not least, I've been on the executive committee for 2 years, serving as your secretary. That's it.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Sure.
Very impressive. Ellie, tell us about yourself, how long you've been on the island, your family, your career, and give us an idea of your skills and talents that you think will bring value to the members.
Okay, a little bit about my background. Jeff and I are from Ohio originally. We've been on the island a little over 8 years. We bought a lot in 2011, and we didn't move down here till 2015, but we vacationed on the island as much as we possibly could before we built our home. We also lived in a Spinnaker condo when we were building our house. So I've had the condo experience and also building experience. We have 2 children, Andrew, who is the tournament director at the Landings in Savannah, and our newly married daughter, Marissa, who lives in Atlanta with her husband, Jamie, and they both are regional managers for Whole Foods. Early in my career, I was an owner and operator of Dairy Queens, along with Jeff. My second career was as the manager of the art library at the Akron Art Museum. And I think from these diverse occupations that I've had, they're 2 very different things. I have a strong background in restaurant management and training, and the very important skill of diplomacy when you're working with customers. As a librarian, I worked with the entire museum staff on many projects. I trained college and grad students in art research and writing. And I primarily worked with the curatorial staff, planning exhibitions and doing research for them several years in advance. I think because I'm a librarian, I have good organizational skills. I believe that I'm empathetic, listening to others and working to try to understand their positions. And I think that it'll be great working with this group of people. I'm the newbie on the group, but I think it'll be great working with this group.
Thank you very much. Donna, you've been on the board before, but tell us about yourself, how long you've lived on Seabrook Island, your family, your background, and what special skills and talents will you bring to the board that will help add value to the members?
All right. Well, good afternoon, and thank everyone for taking time to meet the candidates today. I'm Donna Brown. I've owned a home on Seabrook Island since 2008. It was a vacation home. I found Seabrook while visiting Hilton Head and vacationing on Kiowa, and one day I decided to try to take a look at Seabrook, and took a tour. Vacationed here a couple times and really love the place because, like Patty said, we're a neighborhood here. We've got all these nice amenities like a club, but we don't have the resort feel. We feel like a neighborhood. So I felt very comfortable here. In 2012, I sold my company and retired, and I moved to Seabrook full time. I have a son and a daughter. My son, Matt, lives in Tampa, and my daughter lives here in Mount Pleasant. My business background includes sales, business development, executive management. And I've owned and operated and successfully sold 3 companies. I have experience in real estate investment. I was a partner in a real estate investment group in the Baltimore, Washington area, which I was born in Washington, D.C. and lived in Annapolis for a while before moving to this area. After I got settled and in Seabrook in 2014, I applied as a candidate for the board, and I was elected to the board. I served 4 years and had a fair amount of committee experience. And that includes Racket Sports Committee. And I believe I was on Racket Sports for all 4 years. And I was the chair of Racket Sports for 3 years. One of the big projects that we accomplished when I was on Racket Sports was having the lighting project completed for the club. And that was a fairly arduous task. That project gave me lots of experience interfacing with the POA, the town, and the condo regimes that surround the Racket Club. Another committee, I was co-chair of our membership committee. I served on our House Social Committee. And my final year on the board, I was on the executive committee, and I served as the club secretary. The year that I went off the board, I chaired the nominating committee, and actually Jim Zielinski was one of the candidates when I was chair of the nominating committee. The skills that I believe I bring to the board is prior board experience. And I do have a lot of experience working with SAPOA and the town, and that big project at the Racket Club with the lights. We had lots of meetings, and I interfaced with just about everybody at SAPOA and the town. The skills and talents that I believe will make me an asset to the board are my business management skills. I'm task oriented. I work well with deadlines, and I'm experienced working with groups and working to find solutions to problems or issues that benefit all. I consider myself a good listener. I always try to be thoughtful and considerate. I don't allow myself to get entrenched in one idea. I've learned there's typically multiple solutions to particular challenges that we face. And I think all these things will help me offer value to our board and our club.
Excellent. Thank you, four of you. We'll move on to the second question. Patty, we'll start with you.
Okay.
My first year on the board, I can tell you a lot of time is needed to serve. So my question to all of you, Patty first, is volunteering to serve on the board requires a real commitment at a time. Please tell us what motivates you to make this significant commitment to the club.
It does take a fair amount of commitment, more so than I probably thought when I first got on the board. But sort of thinking about this question made me sort of think through, why did I do it? And probably two reasons kind of stand out. I think at heart, I'm a builder and a connector. And in second, during formative years, I kind of took to heart President Kennedy's plea, sort of ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. So giving back to the community I love and building upon sort of the contributions of others are my two primary motivators. Career-wise, I'm sort of in sync. I was an executive recruiter and has been retained by companies over the years to help them build their senior leadership team. So to recruit the right people, we had to spend a fair amount of time understanding where the company was, where they wanted to go, what the obstacles to success were, and what were the attributes needed to move the company forward. And then, once we had that strategic direction, we went out, found, assessed, and recruited those folks. So when I was approached to consider throwing my hat for the board, I thought, we were sort of at a pivotal point, and I thought that leadership assessment, recruiting might come into play in talent development. And I wanted to give back to the community, despite not really knowing. I didn't know a single person on the board at the time. That was important to me. So, it is a commitment. It's also an honor.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ellie, volunteering to serve on the board takes a lot of time. Please tell us what motivates you to make this significant commitment to the club.
I think that many people on the island, I believe everyone should give back to their community, whether it's a big or small commitment. This keeps members engaged in their community, and I think the community benefits from that. So it's kind of symbiotic, like you feel better about the club because you're involved with the club and you're not sitting at home on your keyboard making, nasty comments. I often tell people, if you have a complaint or something, or you feel like you're being left out, then you should volunteer for something, especially for the club, and see if that doesn't change your perspective. So I finally took my own advice and decided to apply for the position. I have a pretty good idea of the time involved because Jeff's been on the board for 6 years, so I've lived through that. And it didn't scare me off. I want to be a part of the club's future, and I'm prepared to do whatever's necessary. Whatever the club needs from me, I'm prepared to do. We live in paradise, and I strongly feel that we should keep that feeling for all members, old and new.
Great. Thank you. Donna, volunteering takes a lot of time to be on the club board. What motivates you to make this significant commitment?
Well, I feel that it's important to give back. This club and this island has given me a lot. I enjoy a wonderful life here, and I feel like I'd like to give something back. And I think most of the people that I know feel that way. This club and this island has done a lot for us to make our lives full, and it's good to give back. When I served on the board previously, so I absolutely understand the commitment of time and effort that it takes to be a productive board member. I think when I first signed on to the board, I'd been on committees, and we have board meetings once a month, and And I thought, okay, I can do that. Well, then as we got into the work that the board does, it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of talking to people and communicating, and the pay is really bad. I'm kidding. We have some challenges now that we didn't have when I was on the board prior. I'm worried about our environmental issues on our island and our club, and one of the themes that you'll probably hear in everything that I say is I really think that if we can work together with the POA and the town and have the three entities work together, that we can do some great things to preserve and improve our club and our neighborhood. I'm worried about the costs of running the club and goods and services, which when expenses go up for the club, the expenses go up for the members. So we need to be vigilant and look at where we're spending and make smart decisions for the benefit of the club. We have a finite space at the club and this island for the facilities for the membership, and we're practically at capacity. So I'd like to work towards utilizing the space that we have in an optimum fashion so that we get the most out of what we have. I love Seabrook Island, and I have the desire and the energy and the skills to work as part of our board and do what I can to just maintain this wonderful community for the club and for you all and for myself.
Great, thank you. Rick, being on the board takes a fair amount of time, as you know. Tell us a little bit about what motivates you to make this commitment.
Yeah, I don't know how to follow up all those comments. I'll say this. I've volunteered a lot over my life with my kids. I have a 30-year-old daughter, 25-year-old son, very active in sports and school activities. I volunteered, I can't even imagine how many countless hours for them. I think I mentioned before that, my first comment that I was president of the Watergate board, and that's an operating and a governing board. So it's like both. And I probably spent 2 hours or more a day with that board, involved in that board. Now I haven't spent that amount of time on this board, but I bet you I spend on average an hour a day on different things that come up all the time. I've probably talked to Mitchell a couple times today. I've talked to other people. JT, I talked to you once or twice. So, being on the board takes a lot of time, and I fully get it. But I also to mirror what everyone else said, I look at all the volunteers, both currently and in the past, especially the past volunteers who made the island what it is. And it just seems like, as others have said, that, they volunteered to make this a special place, and I'm sort of with them that I need to do my part to keep it a special place. So that's sort of where I'm at, but I fully get the amount of time and effort. And, I'm going to be retiring soon, so I'll have a lot of open time on my hands. That's what my wife tells me, at least. Go ahead, JT.
That's great, thanks. We'll move on to the next question. Ellie, we'll start with you. In your opinion, what are the important challenges and issues facing Seabrook Island Club?
Well, I think one of the most important challenges facing Seabrook is satisfying the diverse groups on the island or within the club. Members that owned on Seabrook before the pandemic, and then those who have purchased after the pandemic, I don't think they have the same vision for the club necessarily. The board and our professional staff will have to identify the sweet spot where members are happy with the way things are or going to be. The challenge will be trying to connect all these different views and figure out which way to get the most out of what they want and need with respect for everyone. I think another challenge for the club is what needs to be done as far as amenities are concerned. I think that the long-range planning is working on probably a best plan for the club. I hope that once everyone knows what the plans are, they'll be supportive of the plan and be engaged in surveys and focus groups. Knowledge about what's happening provides a sense of order for members instead of wondering what may or may not be happening, which leads to more satisfaction within the club.
Great, thank you. Donna, you shared a little bit of the challenges on your mind, I think, but in your opinion, what are the important challenges and issues facing the Seabrook Island Club?
I believe that one of the things we need to do as a club is find common ground with the POA and the town. And I you know, I'm beating this drum. These three organizations basically represent the exact same group of people, and you know, they're serving us all. I think if we can find a way to work together for the common good, we will be a better community, a better club, a better island. Another area of concern, and I don't know if it's an issue. Well, I guess it is an issue, is getting to areas outside of our gates and back home again safely. This is where I think working with the town and POA can be very instrumental. Our surrounding roads and infrastructure are totally lacking compared to the amount of unbridled development that's going on around us. And I think as a group, our organizations need to make some noise to Charleston County in a respectful manner and get them to pay attention to what's happening here. Charleston County has allowed overdevelopment of Johns Island and paid no attention to upgrading the infrastructure. And we're basically driving on the same roads that were here 50 years ago. Only we have a few thousand more people driving on those roads. And, you know, there are times when I go to Charleston and where I fear coming home at night or coming home in bad weather, because it's dark and scary coming back here at night.
I hear you. Rick, in your opinion, what are the important challenges and issues facing the Seabrook Island Club?
I think people have touched on a lot of them. I'll talk about a non-sexy topic, our aging of our infrastructure. You know, as we look at the club, the epicenter of the club's the Island House and the buildings surrounding the Island House down here. And so it's Ocean Terrace, it's Pelican's Nest, and it's the Island House itself. And, you know, keeping up with the infrastructure and modernizing it, it's something that's not a sexy issue. You don't see it. I ran into the same thing when I was at the Watergate. You can't see it. You don't know it, but you know what? Updating our software so we can do reservations better and all these kinds of things, that needs to be done. We need to, you know, constantly replace kitchen equipment and other things. You know, you don't notice it, but, you know, the money starts going out the door. And so we have to think about it. And I know the current board treasurer, Todd, and others on the board think about this a lot. And we went through pretty much all the projects looking at this kind of stuff to figure out what priorities are. So I think that's an important issue that members, they maybe don't appreciate, but that's what keeps the club running and keeps delivering the services. And so I have to say that that's something that matters. The others have mentioned it, a polarization of our residents generally and club members. I look at this and say, we all care about the island. We all want the island to be better, to be a great place to socialize, enjoy it. It's why everyone's on this call tonight. They want to listen and try to figure out how to make the island better, and whether these new board members are going to try to make the island better or not. Are they the right people? And so we all care about it. And we just need to always keep that in mind when we're dealing with some of these issues, that we're all coming from the same place. And then the last thing is, I'll just mention, and I think one or two of the folks already did, 43% of our club membership has joined in the last 5 years. That's an astounding figure if you think about it. So that's a great amount of turnover. And the challenge for the club is to serve those new members as well as the older members who made this club what it is right now. And so you sort of have to do both. And that's a challenge and it's not easy. And I think that's something the board is constantly facing and the upcoming boards will have to face too. So I'll drop it at that. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. Patty, in your opinion, what are the important challenges and issues facing Seabrook Island Club?
I think we're going to have some common themes here. So
Sure.
to Rick's point about the membership, we are now at 2,300 or just shy of that. And I looked at some stats sort of preparing for this, that the oldest member is 107.
Oh my God.
The youngest member is 20. The average age of the new member is 53. And there are 800 children now associated with the Seabrook membership. So to Ellie's point, there's a lot of needs and wants, and people, what's of value to one person may not be of value to another person. So the board spends a lot of time trying to figure out how do we provide the service levels, the amenities, the programs, and also afford them. And we have, as Rick said, we do have a lot of budgetary needs as far as aging facilities, inflationary pressures, increasing insurance premiums, and sort of natural disasters. So that whole balance is something the board is highly focused on. To Donna's point about roads, I agree. And it's also an employee issue. We're in a tight labor market and our employees drive by a lot of opportunities before they get to the end of the road called Seabrook Island. So, what do we do to ensure that our team continues to drive by those employment opportunities? And we've done a few measures. We've put in sort of competitive benchmarking. We updated the PTO plans and the 401k plans. We put in the employee housing initiative. The employment assistance initiative for when employees are in need. Some clubs that are in our situation are looking at, should we do employee housing? I don't know. That's something the board will probably discuss in the upcoming years. But I think that the number one, the biggest threat, and I'm going to echo probably Donna's comments here too, as an island, the biggest threat I see, and by the island I mean the club SAPOA and the town of Seabrook, is rising seas and more extreme storms. And so we need working together to talk about some strategies for mitigation. I think it's going to be key.
Those are great responses from all four of you. Thank you very much. So that it's kind of a good lead in for the next question. We'll start with Donna. We have people that live here full time. We have people that are here part time. We have people that have been with the club for decades. 43% have joined the last 5 years. Some have children, some don't. We have this diverse membership that the board serves and the club serves. How would you go about finding out the differences and coming together to find a consensus to address the wants of all that diverse membership?
Okay, let's I've thought about this. I don't know if I have the answer, but I've thought about it. If you go back in time about 40 years ago or so, people in downtown Charleston and the Charleston area looked at Seabrook as a place where you would buy a little cottage or a weekend summer house. And going downtown and just talking with people that have lived here a long time, I can't tell you how many people that I've met when they've asked me, where are you from? I say, I'm from Seabrook. And they go, oh, yes, we used to have a little summer house at Seabrook. But then as time progressed, Seabrook became a place where people started moving to spend their retirement years or full time. Then we had a handful of younger people who maybe purchased or maybe inherited a home here from an estate, and they looked at it as a second home or vacation home or a rental investment. Then we had COVID and we had lockdowns, and that changed everything. Jobs changed, and people began to have the ability to work remotely from home. So younger people with families started the move to Seabrook. Our median member age has dropped steadily in the last few years. It's good that the club realizes that this change in demographics and is seeking activities that suit our more diverse age group, including youngsters. I don't know if I have the ready answer or solution. I don't see this as a problem. I see this as an area where we need to focus and listen to our members and put our thinking caps on. And just to comment on, I think Patty said we have 800 children that live here now. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
When I moved here, or when I first was on the board, 2014, we had 50 children that lived on Seabrook Island. And the reason I know that is at Christmas time, I got the bright idea that I thought the club should do something for the kids that live here. So we got one of the guys to dress up as Santa Claus, and we had the kids meet and greet with Santa and have cookies and hot chocolate. And there were literally 50 children, and that's probably included the friends that they brought with them.
That's great. Just to clarify, the 800 children are associated with members, some of whom do not live on the island full time, but there is a
75.
huge growth. Huge
Sorry,
growth
I think there's 75 that are here, full-time residents.
still like 50% growth over that figure. So Rick, let me ask you, you've got diverse membership with diverse ideas and wants. How do you find out what those differences are, and how do you drive consensus?
Well, I think I said it previously, and I'll just say it again. Seabrook's a gem. We all want it to stay a gem. That's the core belief that we all believe in, and that's what we all want to do. So we shouldn't have a diverse view. We may have a diverse view on how to address some of these things, but we're all traveling down the same road. We all want to keep Seabrook what it is and make it better. And so we need to remember that when we have our interactions. So my comment would be, first and foremost, you got to be able to listen. You got to be able to listen to people, hear their complaints, hear their concerns. I would hope they would also listen to comments that the board makes or whatever the case may be. But a lot of this revolves around, and I'll say it for myself, I need to earn people's trust. I think people need to understand that I'm trying to do the best I can for the community, and we're all trying to get there. And I need you to trust me that I'm trying to do the best thing I can. And so that's one way you do this. And then again, it's communications. It's anything, and so the obvious thing is communication and trying to, again, as I said, listen to people. I'm a big believer in the coffees we do with the membership. I'm a huge believer in that. I would like to do a lot more of those things because I think it's just good in general. So I'm a big believer in that, because you know what? You get a whole different answer seeing someone in person than if they send out emails. I think it's really important to have the intrapersonal relationship versus just over emails and stuff. And so that's my take on it. It's that simple. So it's simple,
Great.
but not simple. Go ahead.
Patty, diverse membership with diverse ideas and wants. How do you find out what those ideas are, and how do you drive consensus?
I asked Rick. No, I'm teasing. Well, first of all, I mean, being open and approachable and asking people for their opinion is first step. We do get the drip survey analysis that the membership provides monthly across the club. And as a board, we look at that. We have quarterly meetings where we get feedback. The committee members, we get a lot of feedback through the committees and participation in a lot of the club events. But I think probably the biggest outreach this year has been as we've gone into strategic planning. We recognize that there's growth, there's demographic change, there are a lot of different needs and wants. So we wanted to reach out in a broader way and quantify what the membership was saying to us so that we could get the market research, the planning, and the basis for our strategic plan. So we hired GGA, and they sent out over 4,000 surveys. Over 1,700 members responded. And that the feedback that we receive from the members is going to be the foundation of our strategic planning efforts. You know, there'll be follow-up with more town halls, which they did some of, and more, you know, initiatives to make certain we do get it right. And then once we go down further down the pike, we'll socialize that and ask for more feedback. But hopefully in that type of a very transparent process, we'll get it right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ellie, diverse membership with diverse wants and needs. How would you go about driving consensus and meeting those diverse needs?
Well, I would totally agree with both what Rick said and Patty said. I think the in-person, like the coffees where you meet with people and you meet with them one-on-one and you hear what they have to say, it's a lot different than filling out the drip survey. I also think sometimes a drip survey is a little long and people either don't do it or they use it to complain. I'd like to see like a little quick survey, maybe when the Friday e-blast comes out, like 2 or 3 questions real quick and see if people respond to that better. I think that the same type of survey could be sent out, say after an event, kind of like when you make an open table reservation, the next day you get an email that says, how was your dinner, all that stuff. So maybe after like a pop-up or a tennis thing or trivia, you get an email the next day saying, what did you think? What did you like? Just little short things that are like an immediate response rather than waiting for a month with your, you know, comments that you're saving up. I don't think the club can be everything to everybody, but I think listening to people is so important and it makes them feel heard. But I think and I don't know how you would accomplish this, but getting across that like a successful, financially healthy club is good for everybody. And so you might not always have, you know, I want this, but maybe that's not what's best for everybody. So the majority, you want to try to keep them happy and content. And I just think engagement with them, either through surveys or in person, is probably the key to really hearing what people want.
Okay, thank you. Let's go on to the 5th question. Rick, we'll start with you. Please describe, in your opinion, the ideal working relationship between SAPOA, the town, and the club to ensure the greater good of the island.
You say I have 20 minutes again on this question too?
Then we'll move on to world hunger.
You know, as an owner, you know, in the last 5 years, the first thing I had to do, even when I was looking at buying property, was understand the relationship between the town, the club. And that means you have to go back in history. So I read, you know, 100 and some pages of the history of the island. I've talked to old members who have been on the board back decades ago and basically saved the island when it was at their hard times, you know, and all the different things we've done over the years to get the island to where it's at. So you got to sort of understand that history first, because, you know, new owners here don't understand this at all. And I suggest that's worthwhile to understand the history a little bit. But the bottom line is, it's like everyone else has already spoken. We need to have discussions and understand we all have one goal: to serve the residents of this island and to do the best we can. And we all have different priorities because we have different responsibilities on this island. It's just how it was broken out historically. But we all need to understand we're all supposed to be paddling the same way. And so I think that's the big key. And I would remind people, you know, we had meetings with SAPOA and the town or whatever, remind that when we start diversing and going off into our own little silos, that we're all here for one reason: to help people. And we need to try to figure out that somehow. So I'm all in favor of having some discussions with people and everything else. I'm not going to say it's going to happen overnight, because I think a lot of this is ingrained in the island, but we need to do what we can because we all want to help the island ultimately. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, Rick. Patty, please describe in your opinion the ideal working relationship between SAPOA, the town, and the club.
I don't know if I can give a better answer than Rick just gave, because that was pretty darn good. Sort of to achieve, I think, what Rick is talking about, and this probably wouldn't be appealing to, it might be appealing, I don't know. I think we all need to be locked in together for a day and a half, and we sit around and talk about what we have in common, what efficiencies we can leverage across the entire community, like security, maybe communications. I'm sure there's a list, so that we can better understand, each other and what our impediments to success are, or what we can enhance, and where there's operational efficiencies to best serve the constituents. It's the same group, basically. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Ellie, in your opinion, please tell us about the ideal working relationship in your eyes between SAPOA, the club, the town, to ensure the greater good of the island.
Well, I think that, all three of the entities have their own agendas, but I think Rick said and Patty said, we're all working for the same goal, basically. I know that like the mayor and the presidents of the club and SAPOA meet occasionally, which is nice. I think all three boards should get together occasionally, maybe just for like a cocktail or something. I wouldn't want to be locked in, Patty, with them for a day and a half. But,
Don't blame me, but gotta do what you gotta do sometimes.
yeah. But that way, even appearance wise, a lot of people say, oh, the club hates SAPOA and back and forth. At least we could get to know the people on the boards if we don't already know them, share some ideas. I think a great thing would be if we could share our event schedules so that there's not 3 things going on the same evening. I think that would help. Just planning so that, like, maybe the town, when they have their chow down or whatever, doesn't feel slighted because we had a pop-up at the club and then SAPOA did something. So organizing some of that. Maybe like sharing of some resources. I'm not really sure what else, but I thought of like meeting rooms in Landfall Way. I don't even know if they're there, but everybody's always concerned about there's not enough meeting rooms. So maybe it's something that everybody could use that's from all 3 of those groups. And maybe having a meeting once a year with all 3 groups and letting members ask questions and, I don't know, I don't need to add another meeting to everything, but something to get people together if they have questions, maybe like the coffee thing. If you don't know what the difference is between the 3, come to this meeting. I also think that on the idea of the history that Rick brought up, maybe each group could start like putting something out about the history. There's a great book that was put out by a former mayor. And so that those people who are new, who have no idea, it kind of gets force fed to them that there is a history here and there's things that work well. And there are people who actually saved us at one time. So I think that would be important too.
Okay, thank you very much. Donna, tell us about your ideas towards the ideal working relationship between SAPOA, the town, and the club for the betterment of the island.
Ellie, Rick, and Patty have covered a lot of what I would say. Because I'm basically on board with them that we need these 3 entities to be able and willing to work together. I think historically, the 3 groups have been a little bit protective of their turf, and they haven't wanted one of the other groups to invade their space. And it's we've kind of gone through periods where we had issues and then we worked things out, and then we had issues and we go back and forth. I wrote down some words that come to mind when I think about what would create the ideal working relationship between the club, SAPOA, and the town. And my list of words are community, cooperation, collaboration, partnering, listening, and geniality. And I think those words should be the mantra for the three organizations. One thing I was going to mention is with the club and the POA, if these two organizations work together, I believe there's a lot of overlap in areas that the club and the POA cover and pay for. And I'm pretty confident that if we could work together in certain areas, that we could reduce fees and costs and expenses for SAPOA, for the club, and for the members.
Great. Thank you for. We're going to go to our last question now. We'll start with Patty. All of you touched a little bit on this, but it's important, so we're going to hit it again. How can the board obtain a better and more effective reach with its members? Is it possible to increase engagement from our members? And if so, how?
I'm hoping through the strategic planning process that there will be more active engagement and more solicitation of direct feedback and opportunity for people to get together and talk through the data and direction, because there's going to be plenty of meetings around that. So I think that will increase it. And the communication is, I think there is something we probably can do better. You know, our website is not all that user friendly. It could be a little bit more interactive, easier to search, which might lead to more member engagement as well. Trying to think what other initiatives. Those are the two that sort of popped to mind.
Good. That's good. Ellie, what are your ideas on how the board can obtain a more effective reach with its membership?
I think I went a different direction there. I think that if we had open member meetings in the evening for working people, that would make them feel more engaged. We're just not retirees anymore. Like somebody said before, all those statistics, there's all types of people, and there's a whole lot of people who are on this island now who are working. And if we don't engage them, we might be sorry about that. Also, I think that the meeting should be live streamed, not just for somebody to see in 2 weeks. Another thing that I think would help is, and I know this is a bad word, but Nextdoor, that we should have a presence on Nextdoor. Somebody, not board members, but somebody from the staff, or maybe several people from the staff, should monitor it and correct those things that are said that aren't true, and just nip it right in the bud, and not engage with anybody, but say, this is what the club says, this is what the bylaws say, this is how it is, instead of letting everything run wild and then everybody's putting up fires everywhere. I mentioned like the short surveys before, and which would give us more feedback from people, and having more of these coffee meetings. I just think that the more involved that people are, and if they see you face to face, the more engaged that they are. And when people are engaged and are working for a common goal, they're happy. And I think that, you know, in Seabrook, everything always used to be perfect. When we first moved here, everybody go, oh, this is perfect. Could you ask for anything more? This is perfect. I think everybody should feel that way on this island.
That's good. Thank you. Donna, how can you share your ideas on how the board can reach its members, get their engagement a lot more than we are today?
Okay, I may have gone off on a little bit of a different tangent, but here goes. first, I think our club does a pretty good job at reaching out to members. You know, there's a lot of times people don't see their emails, or they don't know to look for them, or you know, there's a blast and they miss it and it gets deleted and whatever. And that, you know, that's not anybody's fault. It's just things happen. But I was thinking that what if we had a single point of contact for all things club, whereby a member could have a single place where they would go. And I don't know if it would be phone or email or text, whatever, where if they had a question about anything club related, they could go to this contact and get directed to the correct person or department, or get the information regarding an event or activity. Kind of like the Seabrook Island version of the Shell Answer Man. Because I think sometimes, you know, people, maybe they're new members or whatever, and they, you know, and I know we give them booklets and we have meetings and whatever, but sometimes people just want to get a quick answer. And to give people the correct information, the factual information fast, I think is very, very helpful. And I also think it would be a great service if we had like an instant club message board or center where members could send a note if they're and you know, maybe this is too elementary, but maybe somebody finds or a lost article, or they're seeking an article that they've lost, or maybe a member could send a message regarding a lost pet, or sighting of a pet running stray, or, you know, my son's trying out for the tennis team at Porter God. He's looking for, you know, somebody 15 or 16 who can hit tennis balls with him in the afternoon. And I think on this message board, we could also include the postings about dining reservation of availability, or events or activities, etc. But it would be up there all the time, where people, you know, could see it, know where to go, and not just have an email or a blast that comes at one time, and then you have people that miss it.
Got it. Thank you. Rick, how can the board obtain better and more effective reach with its members? What are some of your ideas to increase engagement?
Well, I'm actually not going to say I have ideas on this. I'm the legal guy and the numbers guy, so it's really not my area. Patty can do some of this stuff better than I, or whatever, but I'll say this. I can speak, I think, for the whole board. We're open to ideas. Give us ideas. Tell us what you think, you know, how we can do better. As part of the strategic plan, we are looking at communications and trying to think about how we can better communicate with members. And we've had discussions internally on this, but you know what? The best thing I can say is it's what I said earlier. We listen. Give us ideas, give us your thoughts, and how you think we could do a better job. And we'll take that all under advisement. That's the best I can say. It's not my expertise area. Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, everybody, that concludes the interviews with the nominees. I'd like to personally thank Ellie, Donna, Rick, Patty, for all the time that you're spending, and all of the members that are listening live. And also,
Oh, thank you.
are we still there?
I think we lost
We're
you.
all there.
All right, sorry about that. So I hope you all have a sense of the nominees. If you haven't had a chance to read their biographies, please do so. They're online. A recording of this session will also be online. And just a reminder, you should have received an email blast on the annual voting package that will be coming out. The ballot and accompanying information will be emailed to you on or before January 16th. There is one ballot per membership number, and the voting will end Friday evening, February 16th at 5 p.m. And a reminder that all votes will be received electronically and prior to the annual meeting itself. Thank you all very much for your time and have a wonderful weekend coming up.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you,
Bye,
thank you.
guys.